The wastelands were a blur of chaos and dust, as Corporal Mia Henderson, a seasoned human spy on a critical mission, sprinted across the battlefield. She was still upset about her compromised disguise, but it wasn't the time to dwell on past mistakes. Her breath was ragged, each inhale laced with the acrid smell of burning metal. The distant booms of explosions and the whistling of projectiles filled the air, creating a symphony of war. Amidst the turmoil, Mia's keen eyes spotted the glint of alien armor. The chrysalic soldiers, massive and imposing, moved towards her position. She could feel the ground trembling under their heavy steps. Her heart pounded in her chest, not in fear, but in anticipation. With a practiced hand, she raised her rifle and fired, the recoil jolting up her arm. But the odds were overwhelming. Outflanked, Mia felt a sudden sharp pain at her back, and the world spun. The ground rushed up to meet her, and darkness enveloped her senses. When Mia awoke, the smell of antiseptic stung her nose, a stark contrast to the wasteland's smoky air. I'm inside the chrysalic's base. Her heart skipped a beat with this realization. She had long heard the rumor from countless livestock species that any hostage taken into the base was never seen again. Hands tied up, she struggled to prop herself up from the cold metal floor with her shoulders and core. Her head adjusted from the lingering dizziness, and she started to scan her surroundings. A dimly lit room hummed with the sound of unknown alien technology, a low, unceasing drone that set her teeth on edge. General Zorvak, the almighty commander of Chrysalics, loomed into view, his shadow falling over her. A human, the bottom rung of the livestock species, is causing us trouble, he smirked, his voice a mix of amusement and irritation. Mia's eyes flickered to his, and she noticed a flicker of surprise in his expression at her stern look. Your condescension will come back to haunt you, she replied, her voice steady despite the pain racking her body. Zorvak laughed, a sound that reverberated off the metal walls. Condescension? Look at you. You are nothing but a feeble little rodent. Mia halted her argument as they shoved her into a cramped cage and started dragging her through a maze of dimly lit hallways. It was no wonder no species had ever escaped this place. The sheer labyrinthine complexity of the base ensured that. It felt like hours of relentless twists and turns, frictions and bumps through a dark, haunted maze. The air reeked of metallic decay. Her gaze brushed against clammy metallic walls, shivering. In nearby cells, hollow-eyed captives whispered and moaned behind rusted bars. Distant, dripping water and scuttling ogreish creatures filled the oppressive silence. Mia's heart ached for the captives, but she needed to focus on survival now. She keenly observed patterns and directions, mentally marking the locations and distances of all the hallways and entrances they went by. An intricately mapped route started to form in her eidetic mind as they twisted through the endless corridors. Eventually, the guards led her into a dimly lit chamber with a Brobdingnagian desk at its center. Mia's keen eyes immediately locked on a shiny keycard half hidden on the edge of the desk. Hope surged through her. Zorvak's entrance ensued, and he took another glimpse at his trophy captive with an ever-so-demeaning grunt. Then, he turned his face away, speaking into a communicator on the desk in Chrysalixian language. It seems Mia's spy training on the Chrysalixian is not wasted after all. She strained her ears, through all the hems and haws of the disconcerting alien syllables, catching fragments of a planned attack on the human resistance. This was crucial information, the one she was initially aiming for in her current mission. She needed to find a way to warn the Shadow Squad, the hidden human resistance in the underbelly of the wasteland. While Zorvak focused on his communicator, Mia tested her restraints, finding them surprisingly lax. It seemed her captor's arrogance extended to their security measures. With a combination of patience and subtle movements, she began to work her way free. However, Zorvak's alien honking abruptly ceased. Assuming a composed demeanor, she met his gaze and calmly asked, "Okay, big guy, what's next?" Zorvak observed Mia under the dim light with a flicker of annoyance. His deep voice echoed through the room as he stated, "Speak only when permitted. Know your place, puny human." Mia, her wrists chafed from the restraints, remained silent, her eyes again sharply scanning every detail of her surroundings. The stark room, the walls adorned with alien symbols that glowed faintly, the air thick with a scent of ozone, a byproduct of the advanced alien technology that powered the base. Zorvak, mistaking her silence for defeat, turned his back to her again, starting a conversation with one of his subordinates as they walked out of the room. Mia took advantage of this moment, her fingers subtly working at the loosened restraints. The general's hubris-infused negligence of her was his mistake, and she was exploiting it all right. The conversation outside the room grew louder, and Mia caught snippets of a scheduled system reboot and communication blackout, a routine procedure before major attacks. This was the chance. She needed to act fast and find a way to warn the Shadow Squad before it's too late. With a final twist, her hands were free. She moved swiftly, her training kicking in. Mia deftly snatched the dangling keycard that the clumsy Zorvak had carelessly left there. She then quickly scanned the communicator and awaiting the console humming to life. It was a long shot, but it might just work to send a coded message. Mia's heart pounded as she swiftly decrypted the alien device, hacking into the interface, her fingers flying over the indiscernible chrysalixian keyboard. The characters were unfamiliar, but her spy training was enough to navigate the essential functions. She quickly composed a message, encrypting it with a code known only to the Shadow Squad. Just as Mia hastily pressed Kotlastva, chrysalixian for send, her fingers trembled on the keyboard. The progress bar crawled, 20%, 40%, 60%, 80%. She could hear the orc's heavy, elephant-like steps starting to draw closer, the metallic door squeaking, ready to break open. Her heart pounded in her throat, reaching 98%, 99%, 100%. In a split second, she discreetly resumed her tied-up position, her wrist now subtly freed. The orc took another look at her with disdain and a hint of amusement, completely unaware that her wrist was already liberated. The fate of the resistance now hung in the balance, dependent on whether the message was received in time. This was such a desperate gamble, sending the message on the chrysalixian communicator right under Zorvak's nose. Mia's heart was still pounding heavily, but she kept up a vulnerable composure to fool the orc general. It was her only hope of getting word out to the Shadow Squad. However, this was only step one of her daredevil task. Now she needed a step two, initiating another trick up her sleeve. A hidden shadow beacon, cleverly concealed within the lining of her uniform. The shadow beacon was tiny, no more than a disguised button, but its potential was huge, a beacon of hope in these tough times. As Mia pressed it to her temple, a faint low-frequency hum began, gently vibrating against her skin. This device was a marvel of human technology, essentially a mind reader and a signal transmitter. It transmits your mental images directly through your mind to your allies. No typing, no texting, just focus on your thoughts. Mia closed her eyes, gathering all her focus, and a detailed layout map of the labyrinthine hallways appeared in her mind's eye. The biochemical signals from her brain were converted into a digital frequency. With a delicate hack installed in the chrysalixian communicator during Step 1, this particular frequency became a blind spot for the chrysalixian system. It remained undetectable to their technology and their less than sharp hearing, transmitting secretly to her allies. Outside Zorvak's office, the base bustled with activity, the chrysalix warriors oblivious to the silent communication being transmitted right under their noses. A soft but persistent buzz unnoticed by the orcs cut through the stifling air. Hum, hum, hum. The dim melody of hope quietly seeping through the cell, reverberating off the cold metallic hallways, echoing across the endless expanse of the deep maroon desert and the dark purple sky, across the unforgiving wasteland lit up by the 2 crescent moons, toward the eager ears of the Shadow Squad's hidden outpost. Mia could hear the distant clanking of machinery and the occasional roar of engines. The sounds of an army primed for war thundered through the air. Meanwhile, deep in the heart of the wastelands, within a covert bunker obscured by the rubble of forgotten battles, the Shadow Squad came to life. The subtle hum of Mia's shadow beacon pulsated through their hidden sanctuary, stirring the air with a sense of urgency. Under the flickering lights, screens blinked to life, casting a pale glow on the faces of those gathered. The decoded message unfurled on the display, revealing the harrowing details of General Zorvak's impending attack, along with an intricate map of the maze-like hallways inside the chrysalix base. Around the screens, the resistance fighters, a motley crew of hardened humans and representatives from various other livestock species, leaned in. Their expressions shifted rapidly from disbelief to a hardened resolve. Among them were beings who had defied incredible odds, humans bearing the scars of past battles, alongside creatures whose appearances were as diverse as their stories. There was Tharik, a tall and slender Volnari, his skin shimmering with a metallic sheen, and Grix, a stout Tormian, his fur bristled in anticipation. Zorvak is moving faster than we anticipated, extending their targeted harassment into a full-scale attack. Commander Rael, a grizzled human with a streak of gray running through his hair, broke the silence. His voice, though calm, carried the weight of many battles. Beside him, a young human lady, Lyra, her eyes sharp and analytical, scanned the message. "We have less than a day before they launch the attack. We need to mobilize now." The room buzzed with a low murmur of voices as plans began to form. Maps of the wastelands and the surrounding territories were projected onto the wall, glowing lines indicating strategic points and potential ambush sites. "I suggest we split into 2 units," proposed Tharik, the tall Volnari, his voice resonating with a calm certainty. "One to sabotage their armory, and another to intercept the main force." Grix, the stout Tormian, growled in agreement, his clawed fingers tapping against the metal table. "Our allies in the east have been waiting for an opportunity to strike. This could be it." Commander Rael nodded, considering the options. "We need to be swift and precise. Any mistake could cost us dearly." Lyra, the human lady still poring over the message, added, "Mia's map suggests there's a weakness in their southern flank. We could use that to our advantage." The group leaned in, examining Mia's map more closely. Commander Rael chimed in with a determined tone. "The south flank is indeed our best bet," as Lyra pointed out. "It's less guarded and closer to their command chamber, where Mia is being held captive, along with the cells of other captives in that general area. Our main squad's primary focus is rescue. Tharik and Grix lead the side flank from the east, confiscate the armory quickly. Speed is crucial. Let's strike preemptively, hitting them before their attack even begins. Strike hard, sabotage their weapons, and create chaos. Let's also transmit the message back to Mia. She will need to wreak some serious havoc from within the base on her way out and paralyze their command. Yo-ho! The team cheered in agreement with their signature shout-out, commencing in lightning speed into action mode. Outside, the wasteland stretched endlessly, the maroon desert and dark purple sky a silent witness to the brewing storm. The two crescent moons hung low, casting a faint light on the bunker's hidden entrance. The night was still, but beneath that calm, a fierce determination simmered, ready to erupt into action. The Shadow Squad, united by a common goal, stood ready to challenge the might of the chrysalics and alter the course of the war. Deep into the night, within the heart of the chrysalics base, Mia sprang to life as she felt the light buzz from her shadow beacon. The Shadow Squad had received her message and was now communicating back. Heart pounding, she eagerly attached the device to her temple and closed her eyes. A detailed plan of the counterattack from the squad materialized before her eyes. Wreak some serious havoc from inside the base. Oh, Rail, how you know me? That's right up my alley. With a smirk, she quietly stood up, surveying her surroundings. General Zorvak, the gigantic orc, was too busy snoring and drooling all over the desk to notice Mia's subtle movements. Heck, even if she wanted to wake him, it wouldn't be an easy task. With her wrists already stealthily freed hours ago, she quickly snatched the key card carelessly dangling at the corner of the desk and quietly opened the metallic gate. A disconcerting squeak from the gate sent a frown across her forehead as she tiptoed her way out. It was the dead of night, the labyrinth of corridors dim and eerily quiet, punctuated only by some signature chrysalic snorings from the distance and the faint echoes of some liquid dripping. She navigated herself swiftly through the narrow corridors using the mental map she previously constructed, heading towards the control room where the heart of the operational systems lay. Some captives noticed her, jumping up, eagerly pressing themselves against the metallic bars. She quietly positioned her finger in front of her mouth, gesturing for them to stay quiet. "I'll come back and get you all," she whispered. She needed to do her part in loner mode first. Reaching the control room, Mia assessed the situation. The operators, a few towering chrysalics, were engrossed in their work, yawning constantly as if there was no tomorrow. The night shift was definitely not their cup of tea. She needed a distraction. Slipping the shadow beacon from her pocket and switching it to distraction mode, she activated it, releasing a silent pulse that made the room's electronics falter. As the operators turned in confusion, Mia seized the moment. Using the room's dim lighting to her advantage, she moved like a shadow, swiftly incapacitating each operator with targeted strikes to the neural junctions at the back of their three-jointed knees, a technique she had mastered during her spy training. Now at the console, her fingers danced across the alien keys. A blueprint of the power grid materialized on the screen. With a few strategic inputs, she initiated a cascade failure, plunging the base into darkness, lit only by the eerie red glow of emergency lights. Her next action was crucial. Adjusting the communicator, she connected the shadow beacon to the system and switched to a third, destruction mode. Immediately, it began broadcasting a high-frequency signal, a sound wave specifically designed to incapacitate chrysalics. It reverberated through the base. The already asleep chrysalic soldiers quickly sank into a deep comatose state. Their muscles relaxed, sliding off their chairs like puddles of liquid. The few who were awake for the night shift covered their ears in agony and utter confusion before finally falling to the ground, fighting to stay conscious. Mia was shocked by the power of the combination of the shadow beacon and the amplification from the chrysalic's communicator. Up until now, she had been using the beacon alone, which had only caused minor irritations to these imposing orcs. In the meantime, the Shadow Squad were already huddled in the shadows just outside the imposing gates of the Chrysalis base. An air of tense anticipation enveloped them. Commander Rail, his eyes fixed on the fortress, held a hand up, signaling his team to wait. Every member, from the battle-hardened humans to the assorted members of various livestock species, was poised for action, their focus razor-sharp. Suddenly, the base's luminescent system flickered and failed, plunging the gigantic fortress into pitch darkness. A murmur of surprise rippled through the squad. "That's our cue," Rael whispered, his voice barely audible over the now palpable tension. Just then, their detectors picked up an unusual frequency, a spike shooting off the charts. It was the destruction frequency from Mia's shadow beacon. The signal was astonishingly strong, far beyond what they had experienced in drills. "Wow, that's strong. Seems Mia overachieved her part. Let's start on ours," exclaimed Lyra, her eyes gleaming with a mix of admiration and excitement. With the base now enveloped in darkness and its occupants reeling from Mia's disruption, the squad made their move. They swiftly approached the main entrance, a gaping maw in the dark edifice of the fortress. The doors, usually secured by an intricate locking system, were now unresponsive, a direct consequence of Mia's sabotage. Commander Rail, signaling for silence, led the team through the entrance. They moved with practiced stealth, each step calculated and silent. Inside, the red emergency lights blinking in an eerie glow, creating long dancing shadows that the squad used to their advantage. Splitting into pre-assigned groups, they began their mission. One team, led by Rael, headed towards the holding cells to rescue the captives. Another, led by Theric and Grix, veered off towards the armory in the east wing to execute their part of the plan. Rael's team moved with precision through the labyrinthine corridors. The map Mia had provided was accurate, a testament to the exceptional skills of a top-notch human spy. They encountered disoriented Chrysalis soldiers, still suffering from the effects of the Shadow Beacon's frequency. The squad neutralized them with non-lethal tactics, ensuring their passage remained undetected. Upon reaching the cells, they found some captives already freed by Mia, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear and hope. "We're here to get you out," Rael announced softly, his voice a comforting presence in the midst of chaos. Meanwhile, Theric and Grix's team reached the armory. The door was ajar, another sign of Mia's effective sabotage. Inside, they found an arsenal of Chrysalis weaponry. Working quickly and efficiently, they planted explosives, setting them to detonate once their mission was complete. This would ensure the Chrysalis would be significantly disarmed, hindering their ability to retaliate. With the captives in tow and the armory rigged, the teams rendezvoused at the predetermined extraction point. The captives, now under the protection of the Shadow Squad, moved with a newfound sense of urgency, driven by the prospect of freedom. As they made their way out, the base trembled with the first signs of the armory's detonation. A muffled yet powerful explosion echoed through the corridors, signaling the success of Theric and Grix's mission. As the Shadow Squad and the freed captives emerged into the cool night air, a significant addition trailed behind them. General Zorvak, the once fearsome leader of the Chrysalis, was now a subdued giant, bound securely in ropes, Gulliver's Travels style. His massive form was a stark contrast to the slight agile figures that surrounded him, one of them, the heroic human spy lady, Mia. Zorvak murmured incoherently, caught between consciousness and a deep, shadow beacon-induced stupor. The captives, their eyes burning with years of pent-up anger and suffering, glared at the bound orc. Murmurs of revenge began to ripple through the group, their hatred for the general palpable in the tense night air. One particularly embittered captive, a wiry figure with scars etched deep into his dark red skin, stepped forward, his claw clenching a salvaged chrysalix blade. "This monster deserves nothing but death," he spat, his voice trembling with rage. Before the blade could strike, Commander Rael intervened, his hand firmly grasping the would-be executioner's wrist. "No," he said firmly, his gaze unwavering. "We can't pile violence on violence. Endless tit-for-tat retaliation and hatred is not the solution. Centuries of ancient human history have taught us that." His voice, though calm, carried the weight of authority and experience. "Our purpose is not to kill, but to strive for equal coexistence. We will put him on trial in the galactic court. His cruelty and offenses will not be overlooked and will be judged by galactic law." The group fell silent, the weight of Rael's words sinking in. The captive lowered his blade, his chest heaving with conflicted emotions. Around them, the others exchanged glances, their expressions softening as the truth of Rael's words resonated within them. General Zorvak, still bound and now fully awake, looked around at the faces of his captors. In their eyes, he saw not the savagery he had expected, but a resolute determination for justice and peace. As the first light of dawn painted the wastelands in hues of soft gold and crimson, it signaled much more than the arrival of a new day. This radiant morning marked the beginning of a new era in this part of the galaxy. Mia's resourceful bravery, cunning espionage, and indomitable spirit, alongside Commander Rael's leadership, were central to this change. Contributions from countless humans and all the allies, those collectively labeled as Livestock Species, were also instrumental. Now seen as equals, they helped carve a future where unity and mutual respect are more than ideals, but tangible truths. In this, humanity's role was just like their ingenious high-tech device, a beacon to dispel the shadows of discord, guiding the galaxy toward a dawn of unity and shared dreams. Hey guys, this concludes the Alien Orc Mocks Human Captive, He'll Kick Himself in Regret series. Thanks for sticking with me till now. All stories in this channel are my original work. If you enjoy unique, original HFY and other sci-fi tales, please subscribe to my channel. I aim to post daily. Enjoy, awesome humans!